I think it's safe to say, so far, England's Euro 2024 run has been met with some mixed reviews. There's lots of people out there that think they could do a better job than Gareth Southgate, want Gareth Southgate out, and want a new manager in. Well, today, we're going to see what would happen if we did exactly that. Now, we'll be running these simulations within Football Manager, where I've already gone ahead and set it up so we have the exact squad that England have in this current tournament. We're going to start our baseline test off with Gareth. We'll run 3 simulations with him, take a look at what we got, and then move on to some other potential England candidates. And let me just say, I was shocked by the results of this, and that's not just a, YouTube thing of me saying it to keep you here for attention. I promise you, the person that does the best in this simulation, you would not have expected. But let's start off with Gareth, who supposedly has a 4-2-3-1 preferred formation, which is kind of what he's been doing in real life. He's supposedly a really good defensive manager who lacks the attacking nous, but is supposedly pretty good tactically, although I imagine a lot of you watching might disagree with that. And in Southgate's first simulation, he kicked off the tournament with a 1-1 draw against Serbia, where, as you can see, he did deploy a very similar system and a very similar team selection to what he's gone for in real life, except this front three is moved around a bit normally, and Luke Shaw is supposedly fit in this world, even though it's been trippier in the current matches so far. Now, if it's any hope to England fans, after that draw against Serbia, they also then drew 1-1 against Denmark, as they did in the real world, but then they ended up picking up some form, fingers crossed that can happen, and made it all the way to the quarter-final where they faced Spain. And they got off to a great start, with Phil Foden playing an early ball into Bukayo Saka to make it 1-0. Luke Shaw made an impact in the team in the 7th minute, going down the left-hand side and playing a ball across to Jude Bellingham, who headed it past Raya. And before half-time, Bellingham found Foden, who found his feet in the tournament, and made it 3. Now, they then did capitulate in the second half. The scores went to 3-2, but they made it through to a semi-final where they got a pretty favourable tie against Ukraine. And just before the close of the first half in the semi-final, Bellingham turned in the area and hit a great shot past Lunin. And England controlled the game from that point, had plenty of chances but just could not find a second, and they were punished in the 89th minute as Shaparenko sent Ukraine to extra time. And England are used to heartbreak, and they had more of it, because in the 106th minute, Dovbyk tucked it away. That made it 2-1, and England came crashing out in the semi-final of test number 1. But obviously one test isn't enough, so let's see how Southgate can do in the second and third test. In test 2, England got off to a great start, beating Serbia 3-2. They then beat Denmark 4-1. That got them out the group, where they then beat Turkey in the knockout rounds 3-0. But they went crashing out to Spain 3-3 in a penalty loss. But in test 3, England did manage to make it all the way to the final, knocking out Italy and France along the way to face off against Turkey in what should have been a pretty comfortable final game. But obviously it's England, and there's no such thing as a comfortable international match, as Cengiz Under made it 1 for Turkey. England then pulled one back in the 73rd minute, Trippier picking the ball up from a corner, and a great shot from Shaw made it 1-1. And with 10 minutes to play, Ivan Toney, who was now starting for an injured Harry Kane, found Phil Foden. He drove into the area and decided to go alone, shooting and making it 2-1. And England thought they might finally have an international trophy in the bag for such a long time, until this great shot in the 89th minute levelled it for Turkey. There was then a penalty shootout where Calhanoglu opened the scoring for Turkey. Ivan Toney stepped up from the spot to equalise. Turkey then proceeded to score their second. Cole Palmer stepped up with a number 3 on the back of his shirt to make it 2-2. Turkey then scored again past Ramsdale. It was Eze up next for England, who came forward and scored, but then Karaman took a penalty. Ramsdale missed it, but it hit the post, and Stones had a chance to put England in the lead, which he did. Turkey then stepped up and scored the goal they needed to, and it came down to Declan Rice to win the Euros for England. And he did it. So in our Southgate's test, he managed to win it once, lost in a semi-final to Ukraine, and a quarter-final exit to Spain, which isn't terrible, but let's see if a different manager could do better. And I'll be completely honest with you, this is my favourite test out of a lot. Jose Mourinho as England manager, I'm not saying he did the best, but you'll see what I mean in a few minutes when I show you the team he picked. But as you can see, he's another one where he's supposedly very good tactically, great defensively, but in game they don't class his attacking as very good. It's actually a little bit worse than Southgate's attacking rating. Now, as we know, there's a lot of debate in England currently about what's the best team to pick. They're blessed with so many great attackers, but how do they fit them in the right formation? Well, let's just say Mourinho did not care about that, because he decided to select a 5-back system with a defensive midfielder, 2 deep-lying central midfielders, and then nobody else on the pitch, with 2 strikers right at the very top. In fact, his first game, he got a 1-0 win against Serbia, playing a back 3 of Stones, Gomez and Lewis Dunk, with Walker and Shaw Shaw as wing-backs, Declan Rice holding the midfield with Foden and Bellingham in the central areas, and right at the top was Jarrod Bowen, more advanced than Harry Kane. I don't know why he set up like this. He did this against Serbia, and he did it for the rest of the tournament. But it seemed to do a job, because after beating Serbia 1-0, they then beat Denmark 2-0, and then they got a 3-0 win against Slovenia, not conceding a single goal in the group stage. But you will notice in all of the games, they weren't creating many chances considering the goals they were scoring. They then went into the knockout rounds and beat Belgium 2-1, Bellingham and Kane managing to score, whilst Romelu Lukaku did score a goal for Belgium, but only from the penalty spot. Again though, England only had 0.76 XG, but after grinding out all of those results, it all came to nothing in the quarter-final, where this deflected shot from Italy knocked us out the tournament. But again, that's only Mourinho's first test. Let's see if he does anything else in the other two. And this time they came flying out of the traps with a 3-0 win against Serbia, 3-1 against Denmark, and the same result against Slovenia. But again, they fell down in the early stages of the knockouts, losing 2-1 to the Czech Republic despite dominating the chances in the game. But in test number 3, Mourinho finally seemed to have this England team playing for him, because they beat Spain 2-0 in the quarterfinals, having far more possession, and in the semis they beat France 3-0. Granted, their defender was sent off after 3 minutes, and that set up a final against Belgium. And I'm just going to show you the team he deployed in that final. He brought Walker and Shaw into the centre-back slots, played Saka left wing-back, Arnold right wing-back, and then put Tony and Harry Kane up front together. And this new lineup seemed to do the business, because after only 7 minutes, Foden found Bellingham, who made it 1-0. And after this, England had plenty of chances, 10 shots on target, 22 shots, but couldn't score another goal. Belgium, on the other hand, had 2 shots on goal, and one of them was from this chance. In the 33rd minute, they did not do much all game, but Meunier got down the right-hand side, found Lukaku, who managed to head it past Ramsdale. And that led to a penalty shootout, where it went to sudden death and made it all the way to the goalkeepers. And it was Aaron Ramsdale who stepped up against Thibaut Courtois, and unfortunately his shot was saved. He then had the chance to redeem himself against the goalie that just saved his shot, but Courtois blasted it home, and he won the Euros for Belgium. So Mourinho did not win it on any occasion, played a really weird team, but let's see if a different manager, known for his defensive football, could do a little bit better. It had to be him. Sean Dyche is on next test. He's going in as England boss, supposedly with 4-2-3-1 as his preferred formation. I'm not necessarily sure I agree with that, but what could he do with this England side? Well, his first game saw him deploy a team that had Lewis Dunk and Joe Gomez at the back, and he opted to play Bowen in his team ahead of Jude Bellingham, who did not make his first 11. They started off with a 0-0 draw against 10-man Serbia. Bellingham then got in the team and helped England beat Denmark 2-1. They lost to 10-man Slovenia in the group stage, managed to scrape past a 10-man Czech Republic side in the knockouts, but then he dominated Belgium, with Harry Kane helping England to a 1-0 win. That led to a semi-final against Spain, where Dyche would have been most disappointed with this goal that we conceded, where Laporte scored from a set piece. And they did eventually beat us 3-1, so test 1 went okay making it to the semis, but it wasn't very convincing. And in test 2 he made it to a semi-final again, this time facing Poland, and once more selecting his favourites. Lewis Dunk is in the team, Konz is in there, and even Colin Gallagher made his first 11. And of course England opened the scoring from a set piece. Dyche has coached it well, and Concert managed to tap it in at the back post. Poland then hit us with a surprise equaliser though in the 15th minute, Frankowski finding Matty Cash, who managed to bend one in from the side of the pitch. Another set piece though in the 37th minute found Foden, laying it off to Arnold, back to Foden, who drove into the area and managed to make it 2. And with only 6 minutes left before they made it to the final, this mistake led for Poland going through, and Lewandowski tucked it away after a Pickford error. And after a poorly cleared set piece in extra time, the ball ended up falling back out to the original set piece taker Zielinski. He laid it to the edge of the area, it came back to him. Pickford arguably should have done better, and that made it 3-2. And that was that. England lost 3-2 to Poland in the semi-finals, 2 tests for Dyche and 2 semi-final losses. Test 3 though started off well, with England winning 4-0 in the opening game, then beating Denmark 2-1 and Slovenia 3-0, with Jarrod Bowen being the star of the show so far in the tournament. They then got knocked out though early in the knockouts, losing 2-1 to Portugal. Obviously a good team to lose against, but that's 3 simulations for Dyche, no trophies won. He is the worst so far out of the 3 tests. And after After those poor performances, we have now decided to try Pep Guardiola, argued by many to be the greatest active manager in current football. Surely he'll be able to win this tournament with the great players he's got with England. But he did start the tournament with a 1-1 draw against Serbia, and as you can see, he's the first to use England in this 4-3-3 formation, using Trent at the base of the midfield, with Rice, Bellingham, Saka, Foden and Kane ahead of them. He then proceeded to lose 1-0 to Denmark though, with 2.39 XG showing that Denmark dominated the game. Thankfully though, they beat Slovenia in the last group game 2-0 to make it through to the knockouts, and it was there that they managed to beat Turkey 3-0. That led to our first test against the Netherlands in these simulations. That penalty you just saw was the only chance of the game though. They won 1-0 and we came crashing out in the quarter-finals. Surely that was just a blip though, because Pep in-game has some amazing attributes and should be getting the best out of this England team, and he did manage to get a win in his first game this time, beating Serbia 3-2. He then finished the group stage beating both teams 2-1, leading to a knockout game against Turkey where he won 1-0. Along came the quarter-finals where John Stones, Pep's own player, was dispossessed by Immobile, who managed to make it 1-0, with Ramsdale with some questioning positioning. Foden though drove forward for his current Manchester City boss, found Bukayo Saka, who laid off Arnold, and a great pass through to Mark Guehi of all people managed to equalise. But unfortunately, it seemed like Pep and England weren't a great match so far. Berardi managed to get in behind. Again, what is Ramsdale doing? Italy won 2-1 and England came crashing out of the tournament in the quarter-finals. Surely this time, in his third test, Pep's got to do a little bit better. Well, he showed signs of that with Phil Foden scoring 2 goals for his boss to make it 2-0 against Serbia, and again it was another 2 from Foden who managed to make it 3-1 against Denmark. After that though, there was a surprise 3-2 loss to 10-man Slovenia, and England then lost 2-0 to Switzerland in the first knockout round. So 3 tests for Pep, no great results at all. He obviously isn't the right man for England. So far it seems like Southgate might be our best bet, but let's see if a different great Premier League manager could do a little bit better. Pep's rival Jurgen Klopp has jumped from Liverpool to England manager, and he's going to try and take the team to European glory. And the first thing I noticed with Klopp was he was actually one of the few who didn't want to use Trent. Instead, he opted for Conor Gallagher for more balance in that midfield. But despite dominating the game, they did lose that opening match 3-2. He then brought Alexander-Arnold into the team and managed to beat Denmark 2-1, before dismantling Slovenia with 3.5 XG in a 2-1 win, and then knocking his home nation of Germany out in penalties. But you might notice Germany don't actually have their real squad here. Football Manager doesn't have the rights to that. Spain were then knocked out 2-1, and Italy were then beat in the semi-final. So Klopp's already done better than Pep, and he was in a final against the mighty European giants of France. And interestingly, he changed the team for the final, deploying Alexander-Arnold at right back where he was cooked by Mbappe early on. He then played a ball into the area and Olivier Giroud scored. That was the only goal of the game, so despite making the final, Klopp hasn't won it yet. What about in test 2? And this time around, Klopp decided to start with Alexander-Arnold in that midfield, and it helped his team get a 3-1 win against Serbia. And after dominating the group stage, they won the first knockout round 2-1, and in the quarter-final, Klopp's faith in Trent paid off. Deployed at right back, he scored to help beat Spain 3-2. Belgium were then dismantled 3-1, leading to a final against Poland yet again. Harry Kane managed to score a penalty in extra time, and with only a few minutes to go, Eze broke down the left-hand side, managed to dribble it through to Foden. Foden played it across, and Jude Bellingham hit this brilliant strike, and that iconic goal will have won England the Euros. They won it on one occasion now. Klopp's got one more chance to try and win it again to be the best manager so far. In test 3 though, England got set up in a quarter-final match against Italy, which may go down as the best European match ever, as Foden made it 1-0 just after half-time. DiMarco then played through a corner only 5 minutes later, leading to this goal from Cristante, and literally seconds after, Rice came forward, played it to Kane into Bowen, and Bellingham managed to pick up the scraps to make it 2-1. Again though, DiMarco from a corner 3 minutes after the last one. Cristante nearly scored again, but Bastoni made it 2-2, and there was a bit of respite until the 70th minute where Foden made it 3-2, and with 10 minutes left on the clock, England seemed to wrap it up with Anthony Gordon going through the right hand side, pulling it across to Kane. He found Rice, who made it 4-2. But this is England in the Euros. Another set piece came forward from Italy, and a poor clearance away meant that Di Lorenzo could find Raspadori to give Italy some hope. And with the game in the 91st minute, Pellegrini found Politano, who drove into the area, hit this shot past Ramsdale, and it was 4-4. And not even an extra time, only 60 seconds after that, in the added time of the last half of the game, Verratti found Pellegrini, who hit it past Ramsdale. Heartbreak for England England, heartbreak for Klopp, but Italy will be very happy with that. Now after that Klopp test, I won't bore you with the next couple because I tried Graham Potter, who didn't do anything great and actually got knocked out in the group stage of one. And then I tried Frank Lampard, who did surprisingly well, getting England to 2 finals and 1 semi-final, but they didn't win any of those, so he won no trophies, even though he took England far every single time. And at this point, I was ready to give up and just accept that, you know, Klopp did pretty well, Southgate did pretty well, and nobody could get a good tune out of this England team. But then I thought I'd test with the most surprising managerial candidate, just for a laugh really, and I decided to test with England hero Wayne Rooney, who did well at Derby, then went to the MLS, had a poor time at Birmingham, but you know, might be a promising manager in the future. In Football Manager though, his attributes are the worst of anyone we tested by a long distance, so he obviously wasn't going to do great with this England side. And I thought I was right with that, because they drew 1-1 against Serbia in the first game, but if you look at the underlying numbers, they created some big chances. And in the games following, it started to click for Rooney and his England side, with a 3-1 win against Denmark, a 4-1 dismantling of Slovenia, a comfortable knockout win against the Czech Republic with a 4xG. Spain were then put to the sword in the quarterfinals 3-0, and Rooney righted the wrongs of the past, beating Croatia 4-0 in a semi-final, not allowing a single chance on goal, 0xG to England's 20 shots and a 2.9xG. So in Rooney's first test, he had managed to guide England all the way to a European final, but it was Italy who were going to be his competition, and after a pretty close tie with both teams having chances, Italy made the breakthrough in the 77th minute through Politano. But not even 30 seconds later, from centre, Rooney must have had some stern words, because Rice managed to tuck it away to equalise. And unbelievably, in the 87th minute, Di Lorenzo messed up a clearance, found Saka. Saka was then able to drive the ball into the box, Bowen scored, and Rooney managed to win the Euros on his first test with England. Surely that was a fluke. Well, it seems like that might have been the case, because he drew to Serbia 1-1 in the next test, then a 0-0 draw to Denmark, and a 1-0 loss to Slovenia. That meant England did not even make it through the group stage. Rooney had arguably our worst performance yet. He's gone from one high to a massive low, and now he has one more simulation. Despite this big failure, if he can win the Euros, he will go down as the best tested manager so far. But unfortunately, in game number 1, his side lost 3-2 to Serbia in test number 3, and despite Denmark having loads of chances, they did manage to scrape a 2-1 victory. And despite nearly 2xG from Slovenia, England beat them 2-0, and Rooney this time made it out of the groups. They barely scraped past Slovakia after a 1-1 draw penalty win, and again it was another penalty victory, this time against Italy in the quarter-finals. So Rooney had now made the semi-finals and was 2 games away from being our best manager yet, but he had to beat France. And with 14 minutes on the clock, the star of the game, Kyle Walker, went down the right hand side. Not only did he shut away Mbappe, but he assisted Saka for a good goal, and again he was influential in England's second, bursting down the right hand side, going past a player, driving into the area, playing the ball across for an easy finish to Eze, and the game finished 2-0, meaning Rooney had now set up a chance to win 2 European Championships in his last test. And he went with an interesting lineup. Pickford kept his place in goal, where Ramsdale had been favoured by many. Gomez came in at left back with Gertie, Stones and Arnold. Gallagher came in the midfield alongside Rice. Despite Walker's great performance in the semi, he was dropped, and then Saka, Bellingham, Bowen and Kane finished the rest of the team. Foden was out, and clearly Bowen had been one of the stars of this simulation, doing well for pretty much every manager. And it was a very close game in the final against Spain, but that man that we just spoke about rewarded Rooney's faith. Bowen went through on goal, managed to tuck it past Raya with a great finish, and Rooney had managed to do it. He won 2 Euros with England in 3 tests. The 38-year-old with attributes like this somehow managed to do it, so maybe once Southgate's gone, Rooney will be the right man for the job. Hopefully you enjoyed this one, like the video if you did, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.